My brother fractured my arm. Mom leaned in close, her voice a hushed plea. Hush now, darlin'. He's got the whole family legacy on his shoulders. But my coworker at the clinic didn't bat an eye. She clocked the swelling, stared me down, and said, "This ends today." Boom. Then she dialed the authorities. I'm Mallory, 32 years old, and that dull throb in my left arm still haunts me sometimes. A ghost from the night my brother Wyatt snapped it clean during what was billed as a chill family barbecue. The pain was like a wildfire ripping through me, but it didn't hold a candle to the gut punch of my parents urging me to zip it, more concerned with Wyatt's clean slate than my shattered bones. But Lisa, this nurse I'd shared coffee runs with maybe a dozen times, refused to let it slide into the shadows. Her move turned my life inside out, and before we get back to the story, would you be kind enough to give this video a like? You know, every single like means a lot to me. It's the kind of encouragement that keeps me creating and bringing you even better stories tomorrow. The evening started off like any other Cooper family shindig in Willow Creek, Texas, a town of about 12,000 souls where high school football reigns supreme and folks wave from their pickups like it's mandatory. We'd gathered in the backyard of our sprawling ranch house, the kind with a wraparound porch that Mom decorated with string lights year-round. Dad, Randall, was manning the grill, flipping burgers with that same old spatula he'd had since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Mom, Vivian, bustled around with her potato salad, the recipe she'd won blue ribbons for at the county fair 3 years running. Wyatt, my older brother by 3 years, he's 35 now, lounged in a lawn chair, already popping the top on his second beer, his boots kicked up like he owned the place. Which, in a way, he did, being the heir apparent to Cooper Construction, Dad's pride and joy. I showed up a bit early, arms loaded with a cooler of Wyatt's favorite craft brew. I'd pinched pennies at the grocery store that week to afford it, but hey, family bonds and all that jazz. "Congrats on the big contract, bro," I said, handing him a cold one. He grinned that lopsided smile of his, the one that always got him out of trouble. "Thanks, Mal. Couldn't have done it without the old man's playbook." We clinked bottles, and for a moment, it felt normal, like we were just siblings shooting the breeze under the Texas stars. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in oranges and pinks, the conversation flowed easy at first. Dad toasted Wyatt's latest win, a subdivision deal that'd keep the company humming for months. Mom beamed, her pearl earrings catching the light. That's when Wyatt brought up Riley, his girlfriend of about a year. She's a sweet gal, works as a teacher at the elementary school, with a laugh that could melt butter. I'd run into her at the Piggly Wiggly just last week, chatting over the produce about Wyatt's truck needing new tires and maybe a lake trip soon. "Riley's talking engagement," Wyatt announced, puffing up a bit. "Figure it's time to put a ring on it." Mom's eyes sparkled, but I caught the slight purse of her lips. She's traditional like that. "That's wonderful, son. Riley's a keeper." I nodded, genuinely happy for him. "She's awesome. Mention that lake getaway. Sounds fun." Wyatt's face clouded over faster than a summer storm. "When'd she tell you that?" His tone had an edge, sharp as a barbed wire fence. "Just small talk at the store," I replied, feeling the air thicken. "No biggie." But it was a biggie to him. The beer had loosened his tongue, and old resentments bubbled up. "She needs to keep her trap shut about our family stuff." Dad cleared his throat, but Wyatt barreled on. "Last time, she called us intense after dinner, like her kin are perfect, with her uncle's drinking problem." Mom tried to smooth it. "I'm sure she meant no harm, dear." I chimed in. "It was harmless chatter, Wyatt." He sneered. "Always playing the innocent one, aren't you? Little Miss Nurse, saving the world while stirring the pot." His words stung, flipping our roles in my head. Me? The stirrer? That hit like a ton of bricks, dragging up memories from when we were kids, like the time he smashed my ceramic horse figurines in a rage over some silly game. Mom had just hugged me and said, "He's got strong feelings, sweetie." Now, here we were, adults, and nothing had changed. The tension coiled tighter, Wyatt's voice rising, his face reddening. "You jealous or something of the business of me finally making it?" I laughed, bitter and short. "Jealous? You've got to be kidding." That laugh was the spark. Wyatt lurched up, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare mock me!" Before I could backpedal, his hands shot out, shoving me square in the chest. I reeled, my heel catching on a root, and crashed down hard, my arm twisting beneath me with a crack that echoed like a gunshot. Pain exploded, white-hot and nauseating, stealing my breath as I curled on the grass. Mom rushed over first, her hands fluttering. "Oh, Lord, Mallory, what happened?" Wyatt stood there, breathing heavy. "She tripped, clumsy as always." Dad hauled him back, whispering fierce. I gasped out, "He pushed me." Mom's face twisted, concern, then calculation. "It was an accident, honey. Wyatt didn't mean it." But the betrayal sank in deep, like salt in a fresh wound. As they helped me up, minimizing it all, I wondered if I'd finally hit my breaking point. Should I just swallow it again, keep the peace? Or was this the line I couldn't cross back over? Lying there on the cool grass, cradling my throbbing arm, that crack still ringing in my ears, it all came rushing back. The years of tiptoeing around Wyatt's moods, the way our family had always bent like willow branches in a storm to keep the peace. It wasn't just this one shove. It was a lifetime of them, stacking up like unpaid bills. As Mom fussed over me with her "accidents happen" line, and Dad shot Wyatt that stern but forgiving look, I felt that old doubt creep in. Was I making a mountain out of a molehill? Had I always been the sensitive one, like they said? Growing up in Willow Creek, Texas, our life looked like something straight out of a country song, the good kind, with white picket fences and homemade apple pie. Our town was small enough that everyone knew your business, but big enough for Friday night lights at the high school stadium to draw a crowd. We lived in that big ranch house on the edge of town, the one with the red barn where Dad parked his Ford F-150, all shiny from his weekend washes. From the outside, the Coopers were the envy of the neighborhood, Dad building homes for folks all over the county through Cooper Construction, Mom organizing church bake sales and PTA meetings with her signature sweet tea. We'd pile into the truck for Sunday services at First Baptist, then hit the diner for fried chicken, smiling for the cameras at every holiday photo op. But inside those walls, it was a different tune, especially with Wyatt. From as far back as I can remember, Wyatt had what Mom called his fiery spirit. As kids, that meant he'd fly off the handle over the smallest things. I had this collection of ceramic horse figurines Grandpa Joe gave me, hand-painted ones with tiny saddles and real-looking manes. Grandpa was Dad's brother, a quiet mechanic who lived out on his ranch fixing tractors and telling stories about the old days. He'd slip me those horses on birthdays saying, "For my little cowgirl who loves tinkering like her uncle." One afternoon when I was about 8, Wyatt lost at checkers and, in a fit, swept his arm across the table. 2 horses shattered on the hardwood floor, their pieces scattering like confetti from hell. I burst into tears, but Mom scooped me up quick. "Oh, honey, he's just competitive. Boys get riled up." Dad chuckled from his recliner. "Shake it off, Mal. We'll get you new ones." And they did, but never addressed Wyatt's rage. It was always passionate, never a problem. As we got older, his outbursts escalated from breaking toys to breaking me down. By middle school, he'd zero in on my looks or smarts, calling me grease monkey because I loved helping Grandpa in his garage, tinkering with engines. I'd come home oily from changing a spark plug, beaming about what I'd learned, and Wyatt would sneer. "Who'd want a girl who smells like a garage?" I'd complain to Mom, but she'd pat my hand. "Siblings tease, darlin'. Grow a thicker skin." The doubt started seeding then. Maybe I was too soft, too whiny. Why couldn't I just laugh it off like they wanted? The favoritism was as clear as day, though they'd never admit it. When I brought home straight A's from Willow Creek Elementary, it was a quick, good job, over dinner. But if Wyatt pulled a C+ in math after nearly flunking, we'd all troop to the steakhouse for ribeyes and cheers, like he'd won the Super Bowl. I remember one Christmas, I saved my allowance to buy everyone gifts. Handmade bracelets for Mom, a tool set for Dad. Wyatt forgot altogether, but guess who got the new bike? "He's the oldest, needs to get around for chores," Dad said. It stung, that constant second place, making me question if I was doing something wrong. Grandpa Joe saw through it, though. He'd pull me aside during visits, saying, "Your spark's in those machines, kiddo. Don't let 'em dim it." I dreamed of following in his footsteps, maybe opening a shop someday. But when I floated the idea to Dad at 16, he laughed it off. "That's no job for a lady, Mallory. Stick to nursing or teaching. Something stable, respectable." Mom nodded along. "We want the best for you, sweetie." So I shelved the wrenches, picked up biology textbooks instead, hoping it'd earn me that equal footing. The pressure to maintain our shiny rep in town was suffocating. Like wearing a too-tight cowboy hat. Dad's business depended on it, sponsoring Little League, donating to the volunteer fire department. "Can't have folks talking," he'd say. Mom's garden club ladies would whisper if anything slipped. I learned early. Swallow the hurt, smile for the crowd. But lying there that night, arms screaming, I wondered if all those swallowed words had poisoned me from the inside. Was nursing just another way to please them? Or could I finally choose me? As the paramedics I'd eventually call that night wrapped my arm in a temporary splint, the pain meds kicking in just enough to dull the edge, my mind drifted back to those 3 years in Dallas. It was like hitting the reset button, or so I thought. After nursing school, I landed my residency at a bustling hospital there, miles away from Willow Creek's dusty roads and prying eyes. The city buzz was a shock at first. Honking taxis, skyscrapers blocking the stars. But it gave me space to breathe. For the first time, I wasn't under the family microscope. I threw myself into shifts, learning to handle everything from gunshot wounds to heart attacks, but the real work happened off the clock. I started seeing a counselor through the employee program, telling my folks it was just yoga for the mind to dodge questions. Session by session, she peeled back the layers. The favoritism, the excuses for Wyatt's temper, the way I'd always shrunk myself to fit their mold. "That's not normal, Mallory," she'd say gently. "Families shouldn't make you doubt your worth." It hit me like a freight train. Our dynamic was toxic, a slow poison I'd been sipping since childhood. But distance made it easier to see. I started journaling, questioning why I'd chosen nursing over my garage dreams. Was it really my passion? Or just another bid for approval? Still, when my residency wrapped up 6 months ago, an opening popped at the county hospital back home. The perks were hard to ignore. Solid pay, shift flexibility, and best of all, loan forgiveness that'd wipe out my student debt in a few years. Financially, it was a no-brainer. But emotionally, I convinced myself things could change. We were all adults now. Wyatt running point on Dad's big projects, me with my RN badge. Maybe the old patterns would fade, like worn boot soles. Deep down, I harbored this foolish hope. If I came back successful, they'd finally see me as equal, not the runner-up. "Give it a shot," my counselor advised. "But set boundaries from day one." I nodded, packing my bags with optimism that now feels like a bad bet. The red flags waved almost immediately. At my welcome home barbecue a couple weeks in, Wyatt dominated the grill talk with stories of his latest build site, barely letting me squeeze in a word about a tough ER case I'd handled. Mom cut me off mid-sentence. "Any nice doctors catch your eye in Dallas, honey?" I brushed it off, telling myself it was just rust from time apart. But ignoring those signs was like turning a blind eye to storm clouds on the horizon. Fast forward to the night everything unraveled. The celebration for Wyatt's big subdivision deal. Mom had been in overdrive all week, marinating brisket and baking her peach cobbler from scratch, the kind that won fairs and hearts alike. The backyard smelled like heaven. Smoke from the grill mingling with fresh-cut grass and citronella candles warding off mosquitoes. I arrived early, toting a six-pack of Wyatt's go-to IPA. I'd skipped my usual coffee run that month to swing it, figuring a thoughtful gift might bridge whatever gap lingered. "Here you go, big bro," I said, handing it over with a smile. He clapped me on the back, a bit too hard. "Thanks, sis. You're all right sometimes." The vibe was electric at first, the string lights twinkling like fireflies as neighbors dropped by with congrats. Dad raised his glass high. "To Wyatt, keeping Cooper Construction strong as Texas oak." We all cheered, clinking bottles and plates heaped with ribs and coleslaw. Wyatt was in his element, regaling everyone with tales of outbidding competitors, his laugh booming across the yard. I felt a flicker of that old family warmth, like maybe my hopes weren't so misplaced. Then talk turned to Riley. She's this vibrant redhead, teaches third grade, with a knack for making anyone feel at ease. I'd bumped into her at the grocery store the week before, both of us eyeing the ripe tomatoes. "Hey, Mallory, Wyatt's been raving about your Dallas stories," she'd said, her smile genuine. We chatted for a few minutes about her class's field trip, Wyatt's truck needing tires, and how she was pushing for a lake weekend to unwind. "You should come," she added. "It'd be fun to have the whole crew." I agreed. Riley seemed like the real deal, kind and grounded, a good match for Wyatt's rough edges. Over dessert, Wyatt dropped the bomb. "Riley and I are thinking ring soon. She's been dropping hints like breadcrumbs." Mom's face lit up like the 4th of July. "Oh, son, that's music to my ears," I grinned. "She's fantastic. We ran into each other at the store. Mentioned that lake trip. Sounds perfect." Wyatt's fork paused midair, his easy grin fading. "What lake trip? When'd she say that?" The shift was subtle at first, like a breeze before a twister. "Just chit-chat," I said lightly. "She's excited about it." But Wyatt's jaw tightened, his voice dropping an octave. "She talks too much about our plans." Dad chuckled awkwardly. "Easy, boy." Mom busied herself with plates. The conversation hung there, awkward as a three-legged race. Wyatt pressed. "What else she spill?" I shrugged. "Nothing big. Just tires on your truck." His eyes narrowed. "My truck? That's family business." The air thickened, laughter dying out. What started as casual banter spiraled, Wyatt's temper simmering like oil in a hot pan. One minute we were toasting success, the next his mood flipped like a switch, dark clouds rolling in. "Always meddling, aren't you?" he muttered, slamming his plate down. Before anyone could defuse it, he shoved his chair back and stormed toward the barn, the screen door slapping shut behind him. The silence after Wyatt's storm out hung heavy, like the humid air before a Texas downpour. Mom busied herself clearing plates, her movements jerky, while Dad stared at the barn door, sighing. "Give him a minute," he muttered, but I couldn't let it fester. Not tonight, not when I'd come back hoping for change. "I'll talk to him," I said, standing despite the knot in my gut. Mom nodded, relieved. "Good girl. Smooth it over." The barn loomed dark under the stars, the scent of hay and oil hitting me as I pushed open the creaky door. Wyatt leaned against the workbench, cracking another beer, his back to me. Tools scattered around. Dad's old wrenches, a reminder of the garage dreams I'd buried. "Wyatt," I started softly. "I'm sorry if mentioning Riley ruffled your feathers. Wasn't my intent." He turned slow, eyes narrowed, the can crumpling slightly in his grip. "Always the apologizer, huh? Like you're the victim here." The words lit a spark. "Victim?" I'm just trying to keep the peace. But his face twisted, that familiar rage bubbling. It took me back to high school, that time at the county fair when he'd shoved me during an argument over who got the last funnel cake, hard enough to bruise my shoulder against a fence post. Mom had called it roughhousing. Dad laughed it off as sibling stuff. I'd swallowed it then, loyal to the family script. Now, loyalty warred with the truth. How many times would I bend? "You're jealous," Wyatt spat, stepping closer, his breath beery. "Of Riley, of the deal, of me finally stepping up while you're playing nurse." The escalation hit fast, from snide comments to accusations flying like buckshot. "That's bull, and you know it," I shot back, my voice rising despite myself. "I've supported you my whole life." His laugh was bitter. "Support? You undermine me, chatting up my girl behind my back." "I was being friendly." The air crackled, tension coiling tighter. He loomed now, finger jabbing the air. "Friendly? You're poison. Always have been." Loyalty screamed to back down. Family first, don't rock the boat. But anger surged. "Poison? Look in the mirror, Wyatt." That did it. His face contorted, and before I could blink, his palms slammed into my shoulders. The force sent me staggering, foot snagging on a loose plank. I went down hard, arm twisting under me with a sickening crack, pain exploding like fireworks gone wrong. I gasped, world narrowing to that fire radiating up my limb, tears blurring the barn lights. Footsteps pounded, Mom and Dad bursting in. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "What happened?" Wyatt backed up, palms out. "She tripped, lost her balance arguing." Dad's eyes flicked between us, but he grabbed Wyatt's arm first. "Son?" I wheezed, cradling my arm. "He pushed me." Mom knelt, her touch gentle, but her words a knife. "Oh, honey, it must have been an accident. Wyatt's upset, that's all." Dad nodded, pulling Wyatt aside. "Rough night. These things happen." The reversal gutted me. They'd chosen, right there, to shield him over helping me. Loyalty shattered like my bone. How could they rewrite it so quick? "It's broken," I managed. "Need the ER?" Dad waved it off. "Ice it first. No need for drama." Mom added, "Family handles this at home." I refused their help standing, the pain fueling my exit. "I'm going." Driving my truck one-handed was agony, every bump jolting like lightning, tears streaming as doubts swirled. Was I betraying them by not staying silent? The apartment felt empty when I stumbled in, popping painkillers from my kit. Sleep evaded me, propped in the recliner, mind racing through loops of what-ifs. What if I forgave again? The ache pulsed, a constant reminder, but as dawn crept in, the swelling ballooned, bruises blooming dark and angry. It was worse, no denying it now. As dawn filtered through the blinds, painting my apartment in pale grays, I stared at my arm. Swollen twice its size, the skin a mottled map of purples and blacks that made my stomach churn. The pain had morphed overnight from sharp stabs to a relentless, bone-deep ache, like my body was screaming for help I hadn't given it yet. I shifted in the recliner, wincing, that crack from the barn echoing in my head. Sleep had been a joke, fragmented by flashes of Wyatt's rage and my parents' quick pivot to protect him. Loyalty tugged hard. Maybe call them, smooth it over? But the bruise blooming across my elbow said otherwise. My phone buzzed at 6:30 sharp, Mom's ringtone cutting through the quiet like a knife. I hesitated, thumb hovering, but answered on the third ring. "Mallory, honey? How's that arm feeling this morning?" Her voice was light, casual, like she was asking about a hangnail, not a potential fracture. Bad, Mom. Swollen. Can't bend it without seeing stars. She clucked her tongue. Oh, these things always flare up overnight. Remember that time you sprained your ankle at cheer practice? Felt worse the next day, but you were fine by week's end. The downplay hit like a subtle jab, rewriting my pain as exaggeration. This isn't a sprain. I heard it crack. Pause. Well, ice it good and pop some Advil. No need to make a fuss. Folks at church might ask questions. There it was. Layer 1 of the mind games. Minimize, then pivot to reputation. Mom, Wyatt pushed me. Hard. Her sigh was long-suffering. He was worked up, darling. You know how celebrations get with a few beers. Let's not blow it out of proportion. Keep it in the family, like always. The words slithered in, making me question. Was I overreacting, just like when I was a kid? I hung up, heart pounding, but the doubt lingered, gaslighting myself now. Before I could spiral, Dad called, his voice booming through the speaker like he was closing a deal. Mallory, your mother filled me in. How are you holding up? Hurts like hell, Dad. Think it's broken. He grunted. Probably just bruised. Give it time. But then the real pitch. Heard you're mulling the hospital. Bad idea. Docs ask questions, file reports. Could splash back on Wyatt, the business. Escalation crept in, from concern to consequence. His future's on the line here. One slip, and clients bolt. We've built this from scratch. Don't tear it down over a family spat. The threat veiled as advice twisted my gut. Loyalty to the legacy over my well-being. It's not a spat. He assaulted me. Watch your words, he snapped, voice hardening. Wyatt's no criminal. Heat of the moment, that's all. Layer 2. Redefine the act. Make me the one escalating. As the call ended, a text pinged from Mom. Sending a little pick-me-up. Rest easy. Love you.
Listen.
By noon, a knock. Delivery guy with a wicker basket overflowing. Fancy pain relievers, a plush heating pad, lavender bath salts, and a tin of those pecan pralines I loved from the local candy shop. The card read, Feel better soon. Family forever. Mom and Dad. It screamed bribe, the reversal slamming home. Not genuine care, but a shiny wrapper on silence. My hands shook setting it aside. How could chocolates fix a fracture, or the fracture in us? The afternoon dragged, pain meds barely touching the throb. I texted Lisa, my shift buddy from the hospital, a no-nonsense gal with a pixie cut and a laugh that could cut tension like a scalpel. We'd bonded over late-night coffees, her sharing stories of her own rough upbringing in Houston. Hey, need advice, bad family night, she called back instant. Mal, spill. I did, voice cracking. Jesus, that's messed up. Want company? Her concern was a balm, no judgment. Around 3 p.m., Wyatt finally rang, his number flashing like a warning. I almost ignored it, but curiosity, and that damn loyalty, won. Hey, he grumbled, sounding hungover. Mom said to check in. No, hello, no sorry. And? I prompted, pain fueling my edge. Look, last night got out of hand. Too many bruises. Half-hearted at best, like pulling teeth. You fractured my arm, Wyatt, he scoffed. Come on, I barely nudged you. You fell awkward, always the klutz. Gaslighting layer 3. Deny the force, flip the blame. It yanked me back to high school, that fender bender when I'd borrowed his truck for prom. I dented the bumper backing out, panicking. He exploded, shoving me against the garage wall, bruising my wrist. Your fault, idiot! Mom smoothed. Accidents happen. Dad fixed the truck. No big deal for him. I'd apologized endlessly, internalizing the guilt. Now echoes. Remember when you wrecked my ride? I didn't make a federal case. That was a car, not my body. Escalation peaked, his tone turning threat.
Don't go blabbing to docs!
You'll regret dragging the family through mud. Is that a warning? Silence, then click. I dropped the phone, tears hot. Lisa's text buzzed. On my way with coffee. When she arrived, her hug careful around my arm, she listened, eyes widening. That's abuse, Mal. You gotta get checked. The pressure mounted, family's layers of denial versus the screaming truth in my swollen limb. As evening fell, pain unrelenting, I knew. No more swallowing it. Drive me to the dock tomorrow? She nodded. Damn straight. The morning light stabbed through my apartment blinds, doing nothing for the pounding in my arm or the heavier ache in my chest. Lisa's coffee sat cold on the counter, her words from last night. That's abuse, Mal. Looping in my head like a song stuck on repeat. Wyatt's half-baked apology, Mom's sugar-coated bribe, Dad's veiled threats, they all piled up, each one a brick in the wall of doubt I'd carried since I was a kid. But the swelling in my arm, now a grotesque purple balloon, screamed louder than their gaslighting. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Not after a night of tossing in pain, my recliner a poor substitute for sleep. When Lisa pulled up in her beat-up Jeep, her eyes locked on my arm and widened. Jesus, Mallory, that's no sprain. Let's roll. I nodded, grabbing my keys, heart racing with a mix of fear and defiance. This was it. No more swallowing the family line. The drive to Willow Creek's county hospital was a blur of potholes and pain, each bump sending a jolt through my arm that made me grit my teeth. Lisa kept the chatter light, hospital gossip, her dog's latest chewed-up shoe, but I could feel her watching me, ready to catch me if I crumbled. The clinic sat in a low-slung strip mall, its faded sign promising care in a town where everyone knew your name. Inside, the waiting room smelled of antiseptic and old magazines, the hum of a fluorescent light buzzing overhead. Lisa squeezed my good hand. You got this, girl. I managed a weak smile, but my stomach churned with what I'd have to say. Dr. Mark Ellis, a wiry guy in his late 40s with a salt and pepper beard and a Longhorns cap peeking from his desk, greeted me with a handshake I couldn't return properly. Mallory Cooper, right? Heard you're a rock star in the ER. His drawl was warm, but his eyes sharpened when he saw my arm. Let's take a look. I mumbled something about a fall, my voice tight as he probed gently, noting the swelling and bruises with a frown. Gonna need x-rays. How did this happen? I hesitated, that old loyalty clawing at me. Don't air the dirty laundry. But Lisa's steady presence beside me pushed back. Got pushed. Hit the ground wrong. His gaze locked on mine. Pushed how? By who? I swallowed hard. My brother, Wyatt. We were arguing. The x-ray room was cold. The machine's hum, a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. Was I betraying them? Would this tear us apart for good? Back in the exam room, Dr. Ellis pulled up the films, pointing to a clean break in my ulna, the bone jagged on the screen like a snapped twig. Fractured, all right. We'll cast it, get you pain meds. But let's talk about the push. His tone was firm but kind, like he'd seen this before. I spilled it. Wyatt's temper, the shove in the barn, Mom and Dad's quick cover-up, the basket meant to buy my silence. The words tumbled out, each one a weight lifting, but also a new fear settling in. They want me to keep quiet, say it's for the family business. Dr. Ellis leaned back, exhaling slow. That's a heavy load, Mallory. He paused, then shared his own story, voice low. My sister, years back, had an ex who roughed her up. Broken wrist, busted lip. She begged me not to report it, said it'd make things worse. I did anyway. Saved her life, though she hated me for a while. His words hit like a punch to the chest, flipping my perspective. Was I enabling Wyatt, just like his sister had her ex? What if he turned on Riley next? The thought made my blood run cold. As a doc, I'm a mandatory reporter, he continued. This gets flagged as abuse. Cops get involved. You okay with that? My heart pounded, loyalty screaming one last time. Family first. Don't ruin Wyatt's future. But then I pictured that high school fender bender, his hands shoving me against the garage wall, the bruise I hid for weeks. They'd called it an accident then too. No more. If I was your patient, not me. What did you say? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. He didn't miss a beat. I'd say report it. Protect yourself first. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, but clarity cut through. Do it, I said, the words firm despite the tremor in my hands. He nodded, scribbling notes. You're doing the right thing. We'll get you fixed up. Cast, meds, follow-ups. I'm also giving you a card for Tina, a counselor who's great with this stuff, and there's a support group in town. He slid the card across, his eyes steady. Stay somewhere safe tonight. Got a place? Lisa's, I said, glancing at her. She gave a thumbs up, no hesitation. As we left, arm now in a temporary sling, a strange mix of relief and dread washed over me. I'd crossed a line, no going back. Lisa drove, her silence supportive, letting me process. But then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sheriff's office. Need to discuss an incident reported today. My stomach dropped. They'd already reached out to the family. What kind of storm was coming now? The sheriff's text burned a hole in my pocket as Lisa pulled into her driveway, the gravel crunching under her Jeep's tires. My arm, now slung tight against my chest, throbbed in rhythm with my heartbeat. But it was the weight of that message, cops talking to my family, that made my lungs feel like they were squeezing shut. I'd crossed the Rubicon, and the fallout was coming fast. Lisa caught my look as we climbed out. You okay, Mal? That text got you spooked. I nodded, barely, my voice stuck somewhere between fear and resolve. They're not gonna let this slide. She squeezed my good shoulder. Let 'em squawk. You're safe here tonight. Her spare room was small but cozy, with a quilt her mom made and a window overlooking the quiet street. I sank onto the bed, staring at my phone, knowing the storm was already brewing. By morning, it hit like a Texas twister. Mom's call came first, 7:02 a.m. Her voice a mix of tears and steel. Mallory, how could you? Cops showed up at the office asking about Wyatt. You know what this could do to us? The victim-blaming jab landed hard, like I'd thrown the first punch. Mom, he broke my arm. I had to report it. She gasped, dramatic as a soap opera. It was a scuffle, not a crime. You're making us look like monsters in front of the whole town. The guilt trip layered on, her words painting me as the traitor tearing down the family name. We've given you everything. Think of your father's heart. I clutched the phone, fighting the urge to apologize, to backpedal like I always had. Dad's call followed, his tone all business, like he was negotiating a contract. Mallory, this stunt with the sheriff's gonna cost us. Clients are already whispering Cooper Construction can't take a hit like this. Escalation kicked in, from emotional plea to economic threat. You're a nurse. You know how paperwork twists things. Retract it, or you're putting jobs on the line. The weight of his words, jobs, plural, pressed down, making me question if I'd gone too far. Dad, I'm hurt. That's not my fault. His voice hardened. You chose to escalate. Don't cry wolf when it bites back. Click. Layer 2 of the mind games. I wasn't the victim. I was the instigator. Then the extended family piled on. A group text from Aunt June lighting up my screen. Mallory, what's this about police? You're tearing us apart over a sibling spat? Cousin Brett chimed in. Always knew you were dramatic. Each message stung, piling on the blame, like I'd lit the match to burn our legacy. I scrolled, heart sinking, until a single text stood out. Uncle Joe, my dad's estranged brother. "Heard what happened. I believe you, kiddo. Call if you need me." His words were a lifeline, a flicker of support in the onslaught. I hadn't seen him much since he'd split from the family business years ago, but his number was still in my phone, a quiet anchor. Work made it worse. At the hospital, I overheard whispers during my shift check-in, colleagues glancing at my sling. "Heard it was a family fight," one nurse muttered. "Mallory's stirring up trouble." The rumor mill was churning, and I knew the source: Wyatt. A quick check on social media confirmed it, a cryptic post on his page. "Some people will do anything for attention, even drag family through the mud." The likes poured in from his buddies, each one a twist of the knife. A patient I'd treated before, Mrs. Carter, pulled me aside during rounds. "Your brother's a good man, dear. Don't make waves." The small-town gossip was suffocating, and I fumbled a tray of supplies, earning a sharp look from my supervisor. "Focus, Cooper," she snapped. The pressure was mounting, my world shrinking under the weight of their narrative. That evening at Lisa's, my phone buzzed again. Uncle Joe calling this time. His gravelly voice was steady, familiar from childhood summers in his garage. "Mallory, I'm sorry you're going through this, but I'm not surprised." He paused, then dropped a bombshell. "I saw Wyatt shove you once, years back at a 4th of July picnic. You were maybe 12, scraped your knee bad on the gravel. Your folks laughed it off, said it was just play. I called it out, and they froze me out of the business for it." The plot reversal hit like a thunderclap. Someone else had seen the truth, long before I'd named it. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, voice shaking. "Thought you'd come to me when you were ready. Looks like now's the time." His support cracked something open, a mix of relief and rage at how long this had been buried. I hung up, head spinning, only to find an email from Dad's lawyer waiting in my inbox. The subject line chilled me. "Notice regarding recent incident." My hands trembled as I opened it, the formal words blurring. "Cease further action. Potential legal and financial consequences. Family reputation." It was a clear threat. Back off, or lose everything. The walls were closing in, but Uncle Joe's words echoed. Was I ready to keep fighting? Or would I fold like I always had? The lawyer's email stared back at me from my phone screen, its cold legalese like a slap across the face. "Cease further action. Potential disinheritance. Public disassociation." Dad's name was signed at the bottom, a final gut punch. Cut ties or face exile. My arm throbbed in its sling, a dull reminder of Wyatt's shove, but the real pain was this. My family was willing to torch our bond to save face. Sitting on Lisa's couch, the weight of their threats, lose the family, the loans, everything, pressed down like a lead blanket. Uncle Joe's call still echoed, his story about that long-ago 4th of July shove flipping my world. Someone else saw it, named it, and got cast out for it. Was I the family scapegoat, always set up to take the fall? The thought twisted like a knife, but it also lit a spark. No more folding. I opened my laptop, hands shaking, and typed a reply. "I'm not retracting. This isn't about the business. It's about me." Hitting send felt like jumping off a cliff, but there was no turning back. My phone stayed quiet. No immediate blowback, but the silence was louder than any call. I knew the storm was brewing. Lisa poked her head in, holding 2 mugs of chamomile tea. "You look like you just declared war." I managed a weak laugh. "Pretty much." She sat, her eyes steady. "You're doing the right thing, Mal. They can't bully you into silence." That afternoon, I drove to meet Tina, the counselor Dr. Ellis recommended. Her office was a small, warm space downtown, with mismatched chairs and a bookshelf stuffed with titles like Toxic Parents and The Courage to Heal. Tina, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense braid, greeted me like we'd known each other forever. "Mallory, sit. Let's unpack this. I spilled it all. Wyatt's shove, the family's gaslighting, the lawyer's letter. She listened, nodding, jotting notes. Sounds like you've been the scapegoat, carrying the blame to keep their image shiny. That's classic toxic family dynamics. The word scapegoat hit like a bell, echoing my own thoughts. She handed me a book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Start here. It'll name what you're feeling. Back at my apartment, I called a locksmith to change the locks, a small act of defiance that felt like reclaiming my space. While he worked, I flipped through the book, underlining passages about families who sacrifice one member to protect the golden child. Wyatt's face flashed in my mind, his smirks, his outbursts, always excused. My role? Absorb the fallout, keep quiet. But not anymore. The locksmith finished, handing me new keys that gleamed like a promise. That evening, I got a text from Sarah, a woman Tina connected me with from a local support group. Heard you're joining us tomorrow. Been through family drama myself. Happy to chat. Her warmth was a lifeline, a hint of a new tribe. I replied, setting up coffee for the next day. As I put the phone down, another text came through. Uncle Joe. Found something you should see, it read, with a photo attached. A blurry snapshot from years back. Wyatt's teenage hands mid-shove, me stumbling at a family picnic, gravel under my sneakers. My breath caught. This was proof. A moment frozen from when I was 12. The same incident Joe had mentioned. The reversal shook me. Evidence existed, buried all this time. Took it to show your dad, Joe added. He brushed it off. Keep it safe. I saved it to my cloud, heart racing. This changed everything. But before I could process, my phone buzzed again. Sheriff's office. Wyatt Cooper formally charged with assault. Court date pending. The words hit like a thunderclap. Justice was moving, but so was the fallout. My family would know by now, and the lawyer's threat loomed larger. What would they do next to pull me back in line? The sheriff's text about Wyatt's assault charge lingered like a storm cloud, its weight heavy as I clutched the phone. Uncle Joe's photo of that long-ago shove still burning in my mind. The new locks on my apartment door gleamed, a small victory, but the family's demand for a meeting, surely coming soon, loomed like a gathering twister. I was done being their scapegoat, but the path ahead felt like walking a tightrope over a canyon. That morning, I headed to the hospital for a follow-up with Dr. Ellis, my arm still aching in its sling, the cast due any day. The waiting room's antiseptic smell grounded me, a familiar anchor in the chaos. Dr. Ellis greeted me with his easy smile. Longhorn's cap tilted back. How's our rock star nurse holding up? He checked the swelling, now fading to sickly yellows, and nodded. Healing's on track. Cast tomorrow. But let's talk about you. How's the headspace with all this? I hesitated, then let it spill. The lawyer's letter, Uncle Joe's photo, the family's blame game. His brow furrowed. That's a lot, Mallory. You're not alone, though. Tina's group tonight's a good start. He handed me a flyer for the support group, circled in red. Go. Share if you're ready. It helps. His words carried weight, a reminder of his own sister's story, and I tucked the flyer in my bag, resolve hardening like the bone mending in my arm. That evening, I walked into the community center, nerves jangling like loose change. The room was warm, with folding chairs in a circle and a coffee pot humming in the corner. Tina, the counselor, waved me over, her braids swinging. Mallory, glad you made it. About a dozen people sat chatting softly, their faces a mix of weary and hopeful. A woman with curly black hair and a bright scarf caught my eye. Sarah, from our coffee chat yesterday. She grinned. Told you I'd be here. Next to her was Alicia, a quiet brunette in her 40s, who gave a shy nod. First time too? She asked. Yeah, I said, easing into a chair. Feels like stepping into a lion's den. She laughed softly. Been there. Tina kicked off the session, her voice calm but firm. This is a safe space. Share what you're ready for. When my turn came, my throat tightened, but Sarah's nod pushed me forward. My brother broke my arm, pushed me at a family party. My parents, they're calling it an accident, saying I'm ruining the family by reporting it. The words poured out, raw and shaky. I feel like I'm betraying them, but I'm so tired of being the one who takes the hit. The room was quiet, but not judgmental. Alicia spoke up, her voice soft. My dad used to yell, make me feel like I caused his meltdowns. Took years to see it wasn't me. Her story mirrored mine, and Sarah chimed in. My sister gaslit me for years. You're not alone, Mallory. Their words were like oxygen, easing the chokehold of doubt. Sharing didn't erase the pain, but it made it bearable, like a load split 3 ways. Later, I called Uncle Joe from Lisa's couch, needing his steady voice. Hey, kiddo, he answered, his tractor rumbling in the background. Got that photo safe? I confirmed, then asked about that picnic he'd mentioned. He sighed, long and heavy. You were just a kid, maybe 12. Wyatt pushed you down by the creek, mad about some game. I snapped that picture, tried showing your dad. He said I was stirring trouble, cut me out of the business soon after. I should have fought harder for you. The reversal hit hard. Joe's evidence wasn't just proof. It was a lifeline from someone who'd tried to stand up and paid the price. You're fighting now, I said, voice thick. That's enough. Inspired by Tina's group, I started setting boundaries, small but firm. I blocked Mom's number for a day just to breathe. When a coworker asked about my arm, I said, family accident, and changed the subject, practicing keeping my truth close. At home, I taped a note to my fridge. You are not the problem. It felt cheesy, but it was a daily reminder, like a fence around my heart. But as I settled into bed, my phone pinged, a group text from Mom. We need to meet, all of us, with a counselor. This has to stop. My pulse spiked. They weren't letting go, and now they wanted to drag me back in, face to face. What kind of ambush was waiting? Mom's text about the family meeting sat like a stone in my gut. The words, this has to stop, looping as I stared at the ceiling of Lisa's spare room. The support group's warmth, Sarah's nod, Alicia's shared pain, Tina's steady guidance, had bolstered me, and Uncle Joe's photo was a concrete piece of truth in my pocket. But facing my family, with their knack for twisting reality, felt like walking into a lion's den armed with a stick. Still, I'd agreed to the meeting, not for them, but for me, to say my piece and stand my ground. Tina hooked me up with Morgan, a family counselor known for cutting through drama like a hot knife through butter. Bring backup, she'd said. This won't be easy. The meeting was set at Morgan's office, a neutral space in a strip mall just outside Willow Creek, wedged between a vape shop and a diner. I arrived early, arm in a fresh blue cast, the ache dulled by meds but ever present. Morgan, a tall woman in her 60s with silver hair and a voice like warm gravel, greeted me with a firm handshake. Mallory, I've read the police report and your notes from Tina. We'll keep this structured, but honest. I nodded, clutching Uncle Joe's photo in my purse like a talisman. As Mom, Dad, and Wyatt filed in, the air thickened. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed, Dad's jaw set like he was bracing for a boardroom fight. Wyatt slouched, his usual swagger dimmed, but his gaze darted to my cast with a flicker of something. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance. Morgan opened, her tone calm but unyielding. We're here to address the incident and find a path forward. Mallory, you start. My throat tightened, but I leaned into the group's strength from last night. Wyatt pushed me at the barbecue, broke my arm. You two? I looked at Mom and Dad. Called it an accident. Told me to keep quiet for the business. I'm done being the scapegoat. Mom gasped, hand to her chest. Scapegoat? Oh, honey, we love you. We just want peace. Layer 1 of the emotional warfare. Deflect with love. Dad jumped in, voice low. This report's killing us, Mallory. Clients are pulling bids. You're hurting the whole family. Layer 2. Collective guilt. Wyatt shifted, clearing his throat. Look, Mal, I'm sorry, okay? Things got heated. Didn't mean to hurt you. His apology was as thin as cheap paper, his eyes sliding away like he was reading a script. Morgan pressed. Wyatt, what does sorry mean here? He shrugged. I said it. Can't we move on? I shook my head, anger flaring. Move on. My arm's in a cast, Wyatt. You've done this before. Pushing, yelling, since we were kids. And I pointed at Mom and Dad. Always covered for you. Mom's voice cracked. That's unfair. We tried to keep things even. But their defense of him, their quick dismissal of my pain, laid it bare. Their love came with strings, tied tight to Wyatt's success and the family name. The argument spiraled, voices rising like a summer storm. Dad leaned forward, face red. Drop this report, Mallory, or you're out. No more help with loans. No more family dinners. The threat landed like a sledgehammer, escalating from pleas to outright rejection. Mom added, You're tearing us apart over one mistake. Morgan raised a hand. Let's pause. Mallory, how do you feel hearing this? I took a breath, Tina's book flashing in my mind. Conditional love, the family's favorite weapon. I feel like I've been bargaining for your approval my whole life, but I'm not the problem here. Wyatt is. The reversal hit me hard. Their love wasn't about me. It was about control. Wyatt scoffed, but Morgan held his gaze. Wyatt, the police report stands. Consequences are real. He slumped, muttering. Fine, I'll take the plea. Community service or whatever. His admission was a shock, a crack in his armor, but it felt hollow. No remorse, just strategy. Morgan turned to me. Mallory, what do you need to move forward? I looked at them, Mom's tears, Dad's clenched fists, Wyatt's defiance, and saw the truth. They'd never change. I need space, I said, voice steady. From all of you. As we left, Morgan whispered, You did good. Call Tina tomorrow. I drove back to Lisa's, heart heavy but lighter too, like I'd shed a skin. Wyatt's plea deal was a win, but the real battle was what came next. How far would they go to pull me back? 6 months after that brutal family meeting, where Wyatt's half-hearted plea deal hung in the air like stale smoke, I stood in my new apartment, the scent of fresh paint and freedom mixing with the Texas breeze slipping through an open window. The confrontation with Mom, Dad, and Wyatt had been a breaking point, their conditional love laid bare like an open wound. I'd walked out of Morgan's office knowing I'd chosen myself, even if it meant cutting ties. The fallout was quiet, but final. No calls, no texts, just a void where family used to be. At first, it felt like losing a limb, but now, standing in my own space, a cozy one-bedroom on the edge of Willow Creek, I realized it was freedom. For the first time, I wasn't carrying their weight. My arm, long out of its cast, still ached on rainy days, but it was a reminder. I'd survived, and I was building something new. Moving day had been a whirlwind. Lisa and Sarah from the support group hauled boxes, laughing as we unpacked my old toolbox, rusted wrenches and screwdrivers I hadn't touched since high school. I'd started tinkering again, fixing up a vintage lamp for the living room, the hum of a drill rekindling that spark Grandpa Joe once saw in me. Girl, you're a mechanic at heart, Lisa teased, tossing me a rag. I grinned, wiping grease from my hands, feeling more like myself than ever. The apartment was mine. Thrifted furniture, a shelf of Tina's recommended books, and a framed photo of me and Uncle Joe at his ranch, both of us grinning over a rebuilt carburetor. Work became my anchor. Dr. Ellis, now a mentor as much as a colleague, pulled me into a new hospital initiative, a program to train staff on spotting domestic abuse. "You've got a voice, Mallory," he said one day over cafeteria coffee. "Use it." I did, pouring my story into training sessions, teaching nurses to ask the right questions without judgment. One shift, I caught a patient's flinch when her husband hovered too close, her wrist bruised like mine had been. I slipped her a resource card, heart pounding with purpose. The program was small but growing, and it felt like paying forward the help I'd gotten. My supervisor noticed too, bumping me to lead coordinator, a promotion that came with a raise and a desk with my name on it. For once, my work wasn't about proving myself to anyone but me. Life wasn't just about work, though. Travis came into the picture one quiet evening at the support group, where he'd shown up to support a friend. He was a high school history teacher, all lanky limbs and quick wit, with a smile that could light up a storm. We'd hit it off over coffee after a meeting, trading stories about small-town life and bad 80s movies. Our first date was at a dive bar, line dancing to George Strait, his two left feet charm making me laugh harder than I had in years. "You're trouble, Cooper," he teased when I spun him too fast. "Good trouble," I shot back, feeling a warmth I hadn't known I could trust. We were taking it slow, but his steady texts, "Grading papers, wish you were here," felt like a safe harbor. Uncle Joe became my rock, too. We'd started Sunday dinners at his ranch, just us, Lisa, Sarah, and sometimes Alicia from the group. Over ribs and cornbread, we'd talk about everything. His old fights with Dad, my new projects, Sarah's art classes. It was family. The kind you choose, not the kind that demands your silence. Joe gave me a key to his garage, saying, "Tinker any time, cowgirl." I'd already fixed up an old lawnmower, the grease under my nails a quiet rebellion against the nurse's life I'd once chosen to please others. As the 1-year mark of the incident approached, I sat on my balcony, a glass of sweet tea in hand, reflecting on the road behind me. Freedom wasn't just leaving. It was building, piece by piece, a life where I wasn't the scapegoat. The hospital program, Travis's laugh, Joe's faith in me, they were proof I'd made the right call. But that anniversary loomed, a milestone that felt both triumphant and fragile. What would it mean to mark a year since that night in the barn? The 1-year mark arrived like a quiet guest, slipping in as I sat on the dock at Lake Willow, the water lapping softly against weathered wood. The retreat was a last-minute plan, a weekend getaway with Sarah, Alicia, and Lisa, organized through our support group, which had become a monthly lifeline. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, a far cry from the antiseptic hospital halls or the tension of that barn a year ago. My journal lay open in my lap, pages filled with scribbles from the past 12 months. Anger, fear, but now, increasingly, hope. My arm, fully healed but still twinging on chilly mornings, rested easy as I wrote, the pen moving like it was tracing a map of a new me. That night in the barn, when Wyatt's shove broke my bone and my family's denial broke my trust, felt like a lifetime ago. I'd spent the year rebuilding, choosing who got to stay in my orbit, and it was like waking up from a long, heavy dream. Sitting there, the sunset painting the lake in pinks and golds, I reflected on the journey. Saying the truth out loud, first to Dr. Ellis, then to the support group, had been like pulling a splinter. Painful, but freeing. It wasn't just about Wyatt's assault or my parents' betrayal. It was about owning my story. Tina's books had named it. I'd been the scapegoat, molded to absorb the family's flaws. But speaking up shattered that role. The support group, now a fixture every third Thursday, was where I'd found my voice. Last month, I'd shared about fixing that lawnmower with Uncle Joe, how the grease under my nails felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul. Sarah had clapped, Alicia teared up, and Lisa raised her coffee mug in a mock toast. To Mal, the badass mechanic nurse, she'd said, and we'd laughed until our sides ached. That was family. Chosen, not assigned. Uncle Joe had become my anchor. Our Sunday dinners, a ritual of ribs, stories, and sometimes Travis, who'd slide into the booth with a shy grin, his arm brushing mine. Travis wasn't just a boyfriend. He was proof I could trust again, his steady presence like a warm fire on a cold night. Work, too, had transformed. The hospital's anti-abuse program was growing, and I'd trained a dozen nurses last week, watching their eyes light up as they connected dots to their own patients. It wasn't just a job. It was purpose, born from pain, but blooming into something bigger. I wrote in my journal, "A year ago, I thought family was everything, even if it crushed me. Now I know family is what you build, who shows up without strings. I'm not healed, but I'm healing." The words felt like a vow, a quiet power in naming what I'd survived. If I could go back to that girl on the barn floor, I'd tell her, "Speak up. The truth will set you free, even if it burns first." As the stars began to speckle the sky, I closed the journal, feeling lighter. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It was for anyone stuck in silence, anyone needing a nudge to break free. I turned to Sarah, who was roasting marshmallows nearby. "Think I should share this at group? The whole thing?" She grinned. "Hell yeah, it'll hit home for someone." Alicia nodded. "You're stronger than you know, Mal." If this story moved you, hit like, drop your thoughts below, and share it with a friend. Then subscribe for the next episode on our channel. Your stories matter too, and I'd love to hear them.